Right. Before we dive into today's political drama, let me ask you something. What do Westminster whispers, pub gossip, and your Nan's theories about the royal family have in common? They're all probably complete nonsense, but bloody hell do they spread fast. And speaking of spreading faster than Marmite on toast, the latest rumour doing the rounds has Labour MPs practically doing cartwheels in the corridors of power. Word on the street? Nigel Farage might be hanging up his political boots due to health concerns. But hold your horses, because like most Westminster gossip, this story's got more twist than a pretzel factory. Now, before you start planning Keir Starmer's victory parade, let's talk about the man himself stepping up to squash these rumours like particularly stubborn grape. At 61, Nigel Farage has come out swinging harder than a drunk football fan after England loses on penalties, telling anyone who'll listen that these health whispers are about as accurate as a weather forecast in Britain, completely useless. The Reform UK leader has been busier than a one-legged cat in a sandbox lately, building what he calls an enormous task of creating a new political movement. And let's be honest, when Farage says his never worked with more intensity than in the last year, that's like saying the British weather is unpredictable. We believe you, mate, we absolutely believe you. But here's where it gets interesting. And by interesting, I mean absolutely brilliant for those of us who love a good political soap opera. Farage claims his critics, and we're talking Labour and Tory MPs here, can't touch him on the issues that actually matter. Immigration? Untouchable. Crime? Rock solid. So what do they do instead? They start spreading health rumours faster than teenagers spread TikTok trends. They can't question us on immigration. They can't question us on crime. They have nothing to go on, Farage told the Times. And honestly, you can practically hear the smugness dripping off those words like honey from a jar. It's the political equivalent of saying, I'm not just winning, I'm winning so hard that you resorted to making up stories about my health. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say, the 61-year-old politician in the room. Farage admits he wouldn't exactly be the British Medical Association's poster boy, but is feeling good, walking the dogs, getting a bit of exercise, and still managing to enjoy the odd pint and afternoon lunch. Because nothing says I'm in perfect health quite like maintaining your pub schedule, right? But wait, there's more. Our Nigel has apparently found inner peace, claiming is no longer fazed by the little things or online criticism. That's like saying you've reached enlightenment while simultaneously running one of the most controversial political movements in modern British history. The irony is thicker than clotted cream on a Devon scone. Speaking of schedules that would make a junior doctor weep, Farage is planning to take a whopping 4 days off this summer to go fishing with his son. 4 whole days. Someone called the European Court of Human Rights. This man's clearly pushing himself beyond all reasonable limits. Now, while Westminster's been playing telephone with Farage's medical records, the polls have been doing something that should make every established party politician reach for the nearest paper bag to hyperventilate into. A YouGov poll found that nearly half of Britons think reform provides a more effective opposition to Labour than the actual opposition does. That's like saying your local pub quiz team could run the country better than Parliament. And honestly, at this point, they probably could. The numbers are absolutely brutal for everyone who isn't wearing a Reform UK rosette. Only 9%, 9, think the Tories are providing effective opposition. That's fewer people than those who believe pineapple belongs on pizza, and we all know how controversial that debate gets. But here's where things go from interesting to absolutely mental. A new megapoll has suggested that Reform UK is within touching distance of forming a majority government. Let me repeat that for those in the back. Majority government. We're not talking about a few protest votes here. We're talking about potentially running the entire country. The More in Common survey, based on polling over 10,000 Britons, that's more people than live in some of our market towns, puts Reform on 290 seats if an election were held today. That's more than double any other party. Meanwhile, Labour would slump to 126 seats, losing 285 seats from Starmer's so-called loveless landslide last year. Ouch! That's got to sting more than accidentally putting salt in your tea instead of sugar. The Conservatives? They'd be left with 81 seats, which is about as useful as a chocolate teapot in a heat wave. Even the Liberal Democrats will be breathing down their necks with 73 seats. And let's be honest, when the Lib Dems are outperforming you, it might be time to consider career change. And if you think it couldn't get any worse for Labour, think again. The poll suggests that major cabinet ministers would lose their seats faster than you can say by-election. We're talking about Deputy PM Angela Rayner, Chancellor Rachel Reeves, Home Secretary Yvette and Health Secretary were streeting or potentially getting their P45s courtesy of the British electorate. That's like the entire starting lineup of a football team getting red cards in the first 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer's personal approval rating has plummeted to -43. That's lower than a snake's belly in a wagon rut. For context, that makes him about as popular as a parking meter in a hospital car park. But wait, because this story has more layers than a traditional British trifle, we need to talk about the elephant across the pond, Donald Trump. In a recent broadcast encounter, Trump gave Starmer some unsolicited advice that basically amounted to, if you want to beat Farage, you better start acting more like Farage. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife and serve it at Sunday dinner. Trump, with all the subtlety of a brick through a window, told Starmer to slash taxes and take a tougher stance on immigration if he wants to survive the next election. It's like your mate's uncle giving you relationship advice at a family barbecue, probably well-intentioned, definitely unwanted, and absolutely guaranteed to make things awkward. The president described Starmer as liberal but not too liberal, which is political speak for, you're okay, but you could be more like the other guy I actually prefer. It's the diplomatic equivalent of saying someone has a great personality. We all know what that really means. Trump even went so far as to say that whoever's toughest and most competent on immigration will win the next election. Given that Farage has built his entire political career on immigration concerns, that's about as subtle as a sledgehammer hint. So where does this leave us? Well, we've got a 61-year-old Nigel Farage claiming perfect health, while his opponents whisper about his well-being, polls showing Reform UK potentially heading for government, Labour ministers facing electoral extinction, and Donald Trump giving unsolicited political advice from across the Atlantic. If this were a Netflix series, people would complain it was too unrealistic. The reality check here is that these health rumors about Farage seem to be exactly what he says they are, desperate attempts to find something, anything, to attack when the actual policy arguments aren't working. When you can't win on immigration, crime, or the economy, apparently gossiping about someone's medical condition becomes fair game in modern politics. But here's the thing about Nigel Farage. Love him or loathe him. And trust me, there's rarely a middle ground. He's proven remarkably resilient over the years. This is a man who survived plane crashes, political exile, and more comeback attempts than a 1980s pop star. A few Westminster whispers about his health are unlikely to send him running for the hills, especially when the polls are showing him potentially winning the biggest prize in British politics. For Keir Starmer and Labour, these poll numbers should be keeping them awake at night more than any health rumours about Farage. When you're potentially facing a loss of nearly 300 seats and your major cabinet ministers are looking at unemployment, you've got bigger problems than whether your opponent needs a few more vitamins in his diet. The Conservative Party, meanwhile, is facing an existential crisis that makes their post-Brexit identity crisis look like a minor disagreement over tea preferences. Being relegated to third place behind Reform will be like Manchester United finishing below their local pub team, technically possible, but absolutely humiliating. What we're witnessing here might just be the political realignment that many have predicted but few believed would happen this quickly or this dramatically. Reform UK isn't just nipping at the heels of the establishment anymore. They're potentially about to overtake them entirely. And while Westminster continues its gossip mill about Farage's health, the man himself is probably enjoying his afternoon pint, walking his dogs, and planning his fishing trip, all while watching the political establishment panic about poll numbers that suggest that time might be running out faster than closing time at a village pub. So, to answer the question posed in our title, should Keir Starmer be rejoicing about Nigel Farage potentially stepping down due to health issues? Based on the evidence we've seen today, absolutely not. These health rumors appear to be nothing more than political wishful thinking, and even if they weren't, the movement Farage has built seems to have developed a momentum of its own that wouldn't disappear just because one man decided to spend more time with his fishing rod. The real question isn't whether Farage will step down. It's whether the traditional parties can find a way to reconnect with voters before the next election potentially turns British politics on its head completely. And based on current trends, that's looking about as likely as getting a decent cup of tea at a motorway service station. Theoretically possible. But don't hold your breath. Thanks for watching UK Pancakes. Make sure to subscribe for more political chaos. Because let's face it, British politics never disappoints when it comes to absolutely bonkers developments. Hit that notification bell. Give us a thumbs up if this made you laugh, cry, or question your faith in democracy, and let us know in the comments what you think about these latest developments. Until next time, keep calm and carry on, because in British politics, the only constant is change, and the only certainty is uncertainty.